but make sure you're on track with your assets, your contribution rate, your income. Make sure that's set, and then do this as an addition. Next, Damon from Little Rock. I'm considering getting into real estate via rental properties. I'm currently 45 with about $300,000 in retirement accounts, $130,000 left to pay on my primary mortgage, and only about $2,000 in other debt. Would you recommend I pay off debt before getting into rentals? What else should I be aware of over the next few years as I get closer to what y'all call the retirement red zone? Damon is definitely from Little Rock. Y'all call it, right? Hey, so the first thing that stands out to me here, Tim, is that Damon's given us a lot of detail about his retirement savings, how much he has left on his primary mortgage, how much he has little in other debt. What he doesn't tell us is what money does he have to put down on this rental property.
Right. Where's that money coming from that's going to actually make that purchase of that rental property? We don't want to leverage ourselves so much in rental properties, especially if you're only going to have one, because there can be so much that goes wrong with having just one property, and that goes for even if you have cash to pay for it.
Yep.
If you don't have a renter in there, or if you did have a bad renter and they tear up the place, then you're going to have a lot of cost and a period of time that you won't have any income coming in there. So lots of things to consider when going into rental properties. We don't know if it's going to be a long-term renter versus a short-term renter, what that's going to look like and what the plans are there. Lots of people do Airbnbs and VRBOs and things like that now, which have some advantages to it, but also based on location, it might be better to have a long-term renter in there, especially if you get the right one. We've known many clients that have had rental properties that have had renters for years and years that have been very stable income producing tenants for them. So lots of factors that go into play here, but one of the big ones that we're missing out of this summary here at the beginning is where is he going to come up with the money to actually buy that real estate property?
Yeah, and what I'm concerned that I'm hearing here is maybe he's considering tapping the retirement savings, and we would not recommend doing that. We do not want to take it from retirement savings. So do you have the capital to put a big enough down payment on the rental purchase so that your realistic rental income that you will receive will not only pay the mortgage, but you also have to think about all the other expenses of the home, which include taxes, insurance, potentially utilities. If you had a short-term renter, you're going to be paying that. If you have a long-term renter, you may not. They may be able to pay the utilities. But you have to figure out a business plan, basically, to determine could you realistically get enough income that the cash flow is going to take care of your expenses. Because here, and this is my personal experience with rental properties. We do have a short-term rental. And when I went into it, my mindset was such that if we never rented it, if it did not rent, well, maybe I shouldn't say never rent it, but if any given month we did not rent the property, could I stand the paying of the expenses, all those expenses we just mentioned, the mortgage, the insurance, the utilities, keeping the lights on? Could I withstand that from my cash flow with no detriment to my lifestyle? And I wanted to check that box before I went in, because it was kind of a worst case scenario situation, Tim, as I was thinking, okay, if we don't ever rent this thing, am I going to be able to sustain it? So that's not for everybody. That's just my opinion. If you're really going, I wasn't going at it from necessarily a business perspective. I was just going at it as we were looking at a property to have that we could use, but also have other people rent and use that rental income to pay the bills. So that was my process. Yours may be a little different, but I do think you want to be real conservative going into that first one.
Yeah, I'd be very conservative. It's just my nature, my means anyway. But I would want to make sure that if everything went wrong with this, what's it going to do to my finances, both short-term and long-term? What kind of bind is it going to put me in? So, for long-term rentals for income in retirement, we've had some clients that have come in that have had very nice monthly income coming from rental properties, and it's pretty stable. They've got a number of properties. If one property is struggling, the other ones are able to pick it up. I think that's where you want to get to. And it's not the easiest process to go from, one property to 10 properties or whatever that looks like, but it can be very good income in retirement if done right. Yeah. So again, it needs to come back to the overall financial plan. What's the income they're going to look like going along with your retirement assets that you've built up? you're young enough now at 45 that we don't want to touch the retirement accounts, because not only would we be paying ordinary income taxes, but we'd also have a 10% penalty. So almost half of that would be gone if we tried to pull that out and use that money for it. But we want to build a plan that that retirement income can still utilize those retirement accounts over the long term, make sure those are invested properly, that we're not going to touch them until retirement, and then build the overall income plan with Social Security and any other sources of income that you might have. And really, again, it's, are you on track for financial independence?
Yeah, and I think that's the bottom line here for us, Damon. And remember, at the start of the show, I said all of our answers come from the perspective of trying to make sure you discover, protect, and share true financial independence. I know business owners, if they're going to be business owners, they've got to be risk takers. But from our perspective, Damon, it's good supplemental retirement income, but don't jeopardize your financial future, your financial independence, because you just, on a whim, decide you want to get into rental properties. It can be a good sidebar, but make sure you're on track with your assets, your contribution rate, your income. Make sure that's set, and then do this as an addition.